F2Z Entertainment, which is comprised of Z-Man, Pretzel Games, Plaid Hat, and now is in fact part of Asmodee, but we will not get into that right now. Had a bunch of stuff on display. The first we'll talk about needs no introduction, but I will introduce it as Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Obviously, this is two large franchises, properties colliding. A lot of people anticipating this. You got to try out a few rounds, see how it works.
Purchase it if you haven't noticed.
And it's also there.
Yeah, this was actually one of the first things I got to try out, mostly because I just happened to walk by and like, oh, look, it's free.
And what'd you think?
Yeah, what I was, while I would have loved it anyways, I'm sure, I was like, part of you is worried it's just pandemic, but instead of virus cubes, it's
Cthulhu cubes.
But it actually does have some different mechanics in it, which I think really make it actually, different. You're not just playing a skinned version. Like, if you didn't close your eyes, you wouldn't know the difference. In this one, you're actually playing within 4 cities that are much, at least to me, much better connected than you can think of some of the crazy places having to hop around the world.
Okay.
It's the classic cities. Arkham, Innsmouth, if I'm saying that right. I know I'm always... So on and so forth. If you know the Cthulhu lore, you'll recognize the names. Mm-hmm. And in this, there are 4 portals. Your goal is to close them all.
Okay.
Now, to do this, you're going to, just like Pandemic, you need the color cards to match the city and to match the area. Now, unfortunately, cultists are running around. And, cultists, you don't like those cultists.
I don't like them at all.
And not only cultists, though. Here's the thing. There's also Shoggoths. Now, if you remember in the regular Pandemic, you're like, oh, I'll spend an action to kill a virus. Same sort of thing with cultists. The Shoggoths, however, first, if you enter an area with them, you have to do a horror check. And you actually have a sanity meter.
Huh.
And to fight them actually takes 3 actions, so pretty much an entire turn has to be devoted to taking them out. And if too many of them get on the board, it's game over.
Now, can players, I assume, team up in different ways, and like you have character abilities?
Yeah,
like
you actually like a reporter, the detective, classic, Cthulian, I guess, roles.
And is it? You said it takes it in 4 cities. Like, how is it? But it's still like the original Pandemic, where you can't just go from one to the next. There's different paths.
There are bus stops in each city, and each city has broken up into little areas. Like one has a graveyard, one has a.
Okay.
And I actually played the news reporter who could. It was pretty much like the Traveler in Pandemic. I can go anywhere I want.
Right, the best one.
Right, and if remember in I just remembered it. Sorry, Pandemic. The
That's
outbreaks.
the name of it. Yeah.
How they can spread. Bad things happen. So but that's it. In the race camp. In this, in addition to what you expect in that, Elder Ones awaken. And they'll affect the game, and as you can guess, usually in a negative way.
I would assume so.
So, each outbreak actually causes more chaos, more rules, in essence, to be added. Huh. There are actually, I believe, they said 14 different outbreaks. By the way, the last one's always Cthulhu. If Cthulhu awakens, it's game over.
Okay.
But, each outbreak can be different. It's randomly shuffled, put out, I think, 7 or so before he awakens. So that's really interesting. So each game... the outbreaks will actually cause different rules and bad things to happen, so you never can predict what's coming.
I like that, yeah.
The other thing is, in your deck, there are actually artifact cards. And they actually cost sanity to use, but will give big buffs. So I guess they're like the event cards. Mm-hmm. But there's a price to pay, so it's very interesting, do I use this or not? And yes, you can use them on other people's turns. Unless one, we actually saw one of them, stop that, so...
Oh, cancel cards?
Yes, no. One of the elder ones was like, you can't use it on other people's turns, so it's just like, no. But to me, this was actually really cool. It captured sort of the general, I guess, fear, I would say almost, or hard difficulty of Pandemic without just skinning it over with Cthulhu, and actually giving some sort of nice Cthulian taste in there and making it a different game. I think that actually is a nice addition to put alongside your other Pandemic.
Or even someone could pick it up if they'd never heard of Pandemic but love, or had, or whatever, but love Cthulhu.
And worship Cthulhu, as I told you.
Yes. They wouldn't feel like they were missing out or lacking anything. Okay, that sounds awesome.
And of course, I should mention the art is very like the cards, like when it says the graveyard, for example. I keep pulling up the graveyard, I don't know why.
Love the graveyard.
But it actually looks like hand-drawn on a piece of page or something. It has that Lovecraftian look as well, too.
Yeah,
so to me,
important.
it definitely, I was very happy with it.
So then let's go around from Z-Man to Pretzel Games, who was very successful with Flickem Up last year. Mm-hmm. They have a brand new dexterity game to follow that called Junk Art. We actually got to do the giant versions of it.
And is that fun? We actually played at 2 different tables.
Right, so there's actually multiple styles of play and rule sets, and we each played a different one.
Right.
But essentially, you're taking strangely shaped pieces and stacking them in different ways, and you usually don't want them to fall, but there's different variations. So what's the one that you played? And
there really wasn't, because I think it was just points at the end for great pieces, but really the big thing was, I don't know if this rules work, but the way we played it is everyone gets a base.
Right.
You'd play 3 pieces, so you take a card, you'd pass it to your opponent. They have to they take whatever piece you have,
and the card shows a different piece on it. Right. You have to find.
They find it, try to put it on their structure. Mm-hmm. If one falls off, you're okay.
Okay.
Unless you do it again, then you have 2 strikes. If more than one falls off, you die. But here's the thing: after playing 3 pieces, or getting an opponent to play 3 pieces, and you get a new card each round too, so you always have 3 options to give them. Mm-hmm. You rotate, get the next person's statue. So there's a challenge of, do I want to give them hard pieces right off the bat because I'm going to have to deal with it?
Right.
Which is what I did. And continue to do, which is quite hilarious to watch.
I like that, yeah.
Or do you keep it easy and then just...
Right, try to find the middle ground or know when to strike and when to hold back, when you think you can handle it or not. And that's totally different from what we were doing. Which is, at the same time, everybody flipped the top card of their own decks. We each had an individual deck and had to find that piece and put another thing. And when you get it, you shout done. And whoever is last, they don't get to add their piece. So they put it back in the pile. Or if your thing falls, you put those back in the pile. And then once the deck's run out, whoever has the most pieces on their structure wins. So it's a much more fast-paced, frantic... Sounds a little bit almost
so you
less
didn't rotate,
strategic. No, there was no rotating.
That's interesting. Okay.
So very different. There's a bunch of these. They're based on the city that you're in.
Right. I believe you were in Indianapolis.
I was in Indianapolis.
I believe I was in Montreal.
Yeah, something like that. But super fun, silly game.
I should point out, I don't know if you saw this, but it turns out there's some extra cards in there. If you have Flickem Up, you can add the cactus pieces from Flickem Up into this. So those would be options of cards that are drawn from the item deck.
It sounds good to me.
So I want you to imagine something. After playing with this, imagine it's like, cactus, oh, God.
I'm glad you brought up Flickem Up.
Yeah.
So after we played some of these games, we did get to sit down and talk to one of the representatives from F2Z, see some of the stuff coming up. I think the coolest and weirdest one that we just found out about is Dead of Winter Flickem Up.
Yes, this is actually a combination of both the Dead of Winter and Flickem Up games, and we actually got to see some of the really very prototype pieces, but really awesome.
It's Flickem Up with a Dead of Winter skin. It would be weird if it was the other way around. It wouldn't make much sense. But yeah, so you're knocking over zombies, and we took some pictures. It's not final stuff, but the art of it I thought looked really cool.
Well, it's cool because it was the Flickem Up art, but they actually used the same characters we recognize. Like there was some I think with the Santa Claus, the ninja,
and the locations were all from Dead of Winter,
and they actually matter in this too.
So really interesting.
It was also a funny story how it started. Apparently, when Flickem Up came out, they had a contest. Send a picture of playing Flickem Up. Apparently, the people at Plaid Hat showed them doing it with the zombie tokens from Dead of Winter, and they thought they were like, let's do that.
Right. Brilliant idea. So that looks hilarious. That's in 2017.
Yeah, another big thing for 2017. We were talking about Pandemic earlier. Now, that had a legacy version that had Season 1. That's correct. And
ever since it was announced, we were like, Season 1? What does that mean?
Well, we found out. Season 2 will be arriving actually a little before Gen Con.
Yes. June, July of next year, we were told.
Of course, these are all fingers crossed. You never know when things happen.
Of course, but... That's very interesting. Supposedly, they're already playtesting it, and it's very different from the first one. We don't know how.
And supposedly they say it's even better.
Right.
The playtesters said that. Supposedly not.
We'll see.
It's very interesting. Obviously they couldn't tell us much. One, because they don't want they wanted you to find out when it's get closer. Two, this is a legacy game. You want some surprises.
Yes, that's spoilerific stuff.
But definitely, I would suggest trying to beat Season 1 before then, because you never know if or if not. That actually matters to season.
I gotta assume it does. I gotta.
Well, no. It could be, it could be like just Mass Effect 2. If you didn't play, here's a little comic to fill out.
Well, I'm sure they'll have both. I imagine both options. And finally, another Pandemic expansion for Pandemic: The Cure, which, what was the name of it again?
Experimental medication, I believe.
Experimental medication.
Something with experimental medication.
I believe that was it.
This, I think, made total sense for it, because when we played that Board Game KeyCon, it definitely is more of a push your luck with dice kind of deal.
It absolutely is.
So the idea of experimental, sort of that, and pushing luck, they seem sort of...
So if you love Pandemic games, don't worry.
Yeah.
They are going to make them forever.
Coming, I think this Essen, they're going to release the new Pandemic, I forget the name of it, like the weird...
Iberia.
Iberia, thank you.
That's right, that's coming out at Essen in November. So lots of stuff to look forward to. Lots.
I wonder if the new Pandemic Season 2 would be like, all right, if you played Season 1 and used the blue box...
I bet it will.
That'd be crazy. But that's a lot of amazing stuff coming from them. Definitely curious to be more. And I guess we should say this, mostly because I'm sure people are wondering. In terms of the Asmodee deal with them, I mean, yes, they acquired, but once again, I think they're still in talks even as of this recording, so really nothing to say at this current point in time.
It seems like they're trucking along like they always would in terms of releases in the near future.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, some amazing things already in the future to look forward to, so I'm sure Asmodee will let them keep doing their thing.
Look forward to it!
We got plenty more Gen Con news coming, so you better stay up to date at Roll4Crit at Twitter, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and just subscribing right here.
And, of course, you can find us on our very own website, roll4crit.com/GenCon2016 for all our videos, photos, and more. Stay tuned.